Well, folks, here's some horrible news. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, once again, was in the hospital this past weekend for chills and a fever. Now, she didn't stay too long. They gave her an IV of fluids, gave her some medicine, sent her home. She is recovering. Everything seems to be fine. But this is just the latest in what has become an increasingly common occurrence of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, unfortunately, having to go to the hospital. I mean, she missed a couple days of court not that long ago, a week or so ago, with a stomach bug. And listen, yeah, people get sick. Everybody gets sick. I get sick. You get sick. We all do. That's nothing to worry about, right? She has had cancer 4 different times. She has beaten it every time. She's 86 years old. Still active for 86 years old. Probably way more active than me. But the health problems that she is experiencing are becoming more and more frequent. And that's what's scary. Donald Trump might only have 13 more months right about that left in office. If he only has 13 months left, I think Ruth Bader Ginsburg can make it through that. But this is a very real situation that we now have to start thinking about. Because if Donald Trump gets a second term, there is no part of me that, even though I love Ruth Bader Ginsburg and she has been a phenomenal fighter, if he gets a second term, I don't think she makes it through it. I don't. I simply don't. The evidence is right in front of us. The evidence is coming more frequently than it used to. I know we say here a lot on Ring of Fire, the Supreme Court is not the only court in this country that matters. It does matter, which we also say, but right now we have to look at it this way. We have this Supreme Court justice who has been there for a long time. She has done a phenomenal job. She's been an amazing fighter, and we need her voice. And we are at a very real danger of losing that voice. And not just of losing it, but having it replaced by another Brett Kavanaugh, by another Neil Gorsuch. Because if something happens to her, if her health problems become too intense and she does have to retire, or if something even worse happens, Trump's going to fill that spot. And he's going to fill it really quick. He's going to get a hand-picked nominee coming directly from Mitch McConnell and the Federalist Society, and they're going to ram it through the Senate. And that is going to shift that court beyond repair. Right now, yeah, conservatives have the majority on there. Barely. You want to make that a 6-3 court? We're screwed. And there's nothing we can do about it. So here's the thing. The only thing we can do as progressives, as liberals, as Democrats, as whatever, is make sure that Donald Trump does not win that second term. I mean, the man has already put hundreds of judges on lower courts throughout this country. They've got that locked down. The Supreme Court, they've got the majority, but not a super majority. But they will if something happens to RBG, which is why it is important and it is imperative that we make sure that Donald Trump does not get a second term. And while we're at it, let's get the Republican majority out of the Senate too, because they have enabled all of this, the complete right-wing takeover of the court system. And they're going to keep doing that as long as they hold that Senate. There is so much at stake in this 2020 election. And sometimes it does take something like Ruth Bader Ginsburg having to go to the hospital for a fever to make us understand what truly is at stake. There's a lot of fighting right now among progressives and Democrats and liberals and everybody on the left. But it's good fighting. Fighting over who could be the best nominee. Fighting over policy, which is wonderful. That's what we should do. But when all this is said and done and we got a nominee, that's time to unite. I'll be uniting. I may criticize the nominee, sure. But I'm going to vote for whoever gets that Democratic nomination. Unless there happens to be a super viable third-party candidate that emerges and I like them and I square more with their policies, I'll vote my conscience on that. But if it comes down to just generic Democrat versus Donald Trump, I'm going generic Democrat every time. And I encourage people watching this to do the same thing. There's too much at stake to let this man get 4 more years. Thanks for watching, everybody. And don't forget, if you like what you see here, like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And now you can also become a member of Ring of Fire and get exclusive early access to certain Ring of Fire videos all throughout the week. Just click on the little join button right below the video.